Hey friends, welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast, the place that you tune into every single week to change your life. Trisha and I are here to answer one central question today. How do you stop struggling with food? There's 5 steps to it. It starts with your energy. Your food is your energy. We're going to show you how to command your energy. You likely have a terrible, defeating, bad relationship with food, and we want to change that in 5 steps today. So become the person who falls in love with food by spending an hour with us. Trisha, you ready?
I'm ready.
Burn Nation, you ready? Let's get after it. Welcome to the Burn Podcast, where strength meets science, food fuels energy, and mindset creates momentum. I'm DK, your personal trainer, and I want you to train, eat, and think differently. So get ready to take your health and fitness to the next level here on the Burn Podcast. Let's get to work. All right, everyone, we're talking about it. We're going right after it. We're talking about food, Trish. We're going to talk about the central question on all of your minds. How do I stop struggling with food? The number one question that I hear as I'm out there in Burn Nation, and I wanted to bring a little bit of knowledge, but also wrapped in motivation, inspiration, and a 5-step strategy. We're going to talk about 5 steps. Break the cycle of shame, separate hunger from emotion, separate hunger from environment, rewire your relationship, and then anchor yourself in a new identity. We're going to unpack each one of these today on the episode. But before we do that, we have, Trisha, remember last episode, we asked Burn Nation to do some homework. You remember that homework?
Yeah.
All right. We asked you guys to take a piece of paper out. All right. And answer the question, what are my core values? Because as we travel and we sit and talk in front of groups of people, 1,000 people or 10 people, about 1%, maybe 2% in the best rooms will raise their hand and say, Devin, call on me. I can tell you my core values. And you better be careful if you raise your hand because I'm calling on you and I'm going to make you read what's on your paper. All right. I asked the studio when we were in here last time. I said, everybody raise their hands. Trish, what happened? We asked everybody to raise their hands in the studio.
No one had their core values.
And we didn't have our core values.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. You've uncovered a gap. You have now a gap to close in your life. There's some direction and some focus that comes with not knowing. All right. So we got to plug the gap. And you did. You had your core values down, Trish. Chelsea Jordan, you did not. And most of you out there did not. And I know that. And that's okay. But Chelsea, I want to just kick this to you. And I want to allow you to tell the folks out there at home how this exercise, how you did it, what happened, what came of it, and how it impacted you.
Yeah, so I actually had a funny way of having the opportunity to do this. My internet went out at my house for like 3 days. And so couldn't be really on the phones, couldn't watch TV. So one night after I put my kids to bed, I was like, okay, this is the perfect time. My husband's in the shower. I've got 10 to 15 minutes. I'm just going to meditate on this, sit on this, and we're going to do the exercise, in the quiet and peace and quiet while I've got a chance, because we all know as parents, we don't get much of that. Mm-hmm. So I sat there and I kind of thought about it, and I came up really with 1, 2, 3, 5. I had to write them down so I remember.
Tell us what they are.
So I've got my spirituality and faith is a big one for me in the family. And then from a family perspective, also like love and kindness, making sure you're loving others, being kind to others. I've got respect, integrity, and then gratitude.
Okay. Did you get a chance to, on the other side of the paper, did you get a chance to define these? And if you go back and you listen to the podcast episode, everybody, I explained exactly how to do this. That you take 10 minutes on the left side of the paper, write down as many things that come to your mind as you possibly can, and then go to the right side of the paper and take 30 seconds to just circle only 3 things. You only get 30 seconds, circle 3 things, move them over to the right side of the paper, then define them. Chelsea, did you get a chance to define some of these core values that you laid out for yourself?
So the top 3 I did. So spirituality and faith for me has always been putting God first in my life and making sure he's kind of the center of every decision that I make for my family, when I'm in my workplace, how I, portray myself in any situation. So for me, it's just putting him first and making sure I'm, kind of in anything that I do, I'm projecting the love of Jesus and the love of God.
Excellent. Give me one more out of there.
So for me, love and kindness, I think this is a big one for us. Just making sure that we're always loving and always kind to people. I think in a world that we live in right now, we need a little bit more of that. And even from like an empathy perspective, we never know what somebody is going through day to day. So to always just come off as treat others as you want to be treated, show love, show kindness in everything that you do. And that's something that I try to instill in my kids, especially in school. Even though kids may not be nice to you, that doesn't mean you don't be nice back to them.
Excellent. I love that. I hope hopefully this has helped you to just get it on paper so that now you're able to not only teach yourself and keep inventory of your core values as you move forward through time and space, but also be able to train, indoctrinate your kids with the values that you want them to be indoctrinated with, which are on your piece of paper, which you have in a permanent sense because they're written down. So go back and listen to that, everybody. Chelsea, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing a little bit of that with us today. So we wanted to connect last episode to this episode, but we're going to move on with our question of how do I struggle? How do I stop struggling with food? Trisha, what are you seeing out in the world today?
This episode hits home for me because I, like so many people, I'm assuming, when I was growing up, there was these magazines. I loved magazine culture. I think I subscribed to like every magazine that I possibly could. It was like my Christmas list. Like, can I get an annual renewal for all of the magazines, right? And I just remember as a teenager reading these headlines and reading, the tips and tricks to look a certain way. And, during that time, we're also kind of figuring out your body and you're going through different hormonal changes and it's kind of a struggle. And I remember now being so confused at what to do because one month I'm reading, only eat, whatever X amount of calories. The next, it's like, it's okay to splurge. And it's just all these competing headlines and it's contradicting themselves. And I now think about it in the world today of those magazine headlines, those cover stories are now what we're seeing and consuming in social media. It's the viral TikToks that we're seeing that hasn't gone away. It's just a new medium in which we're receiving it. And now I'm older. I've gone through things. I even went so far as when I was 18, I battled an eating disorder because I went so far down this one road of what a magazine told me to do to restrict my calories so much, I just stopped consuming calories. And so I now have this weird relationship with food. I've gotten better, but it's not perfect. And that's why I'm excited to talk about this today is because I can be real and honest and vulnerable. It's taken me a while to get here to actually uncover where I feel. But this is where we're at from pop culture is it's still contradicting like headlines. And what am I supposed to believe? And what do I do in order to hit certain goals?
Yeah. Thank you for that, by the way, because, every generation wants to have a scapegoat for some reason why they did things. And there's always that scapegoat there and to be available if you want it to be. It was before radio was here. It was just pure ads in the paper. Then it was radio. Then it was television. And then it became magazines and this whole traditional media. Now it's second gen media, social media. And there's always going to be people out there that are telling you what you should be doing. Yeah. And you always have to keep protection for yourself and your family in the forefront of your mind because people, generally speaking, that are in the media are trying to take advantage of your vulnerabilities so that you lean into something, so that you engage with it. For example, we basically run a media company. We do actually specifically run a media company called Burn Media, but our marketing function as a whole, marketing, media, we basically run our own publication, right? And so the messaging that we say across all of these channels becomes very, very, very important, especially as you get more eyeballs. The more eyeballs as you go from 100 to 1,000 to 1,000,000 to 10 million, we're probably somewhere in between that 1 in 10 million right now. We are very specific with the way that we craft our messaging because we know that it can hit home with you, and what hits home really matters. What hits home really matters because it is part of human development. It's part of human evolution to be, it's called epigenetics scientifically. It's, for those of you that don't know that term, it's how your environment influences your genetics, how your environment influences your DNA. And some of the most profound advice that was ever given to me was the following. It was change your story, change your state, and then you'll find the right strategy. So many of us try to start with the strategy, how to. We go to these magazines, we go to social media. We're so willing to get to the outcome, to get to the goal, that we will do whatever it takes, that we don't realize that epigenetically we've been predisposed to all of these false narratives that are disempowering, that are not going to work. Think about how many times the word wine or eggs has oscillated in the media news cycles. One moment, eggs, cholesterol, bad. The next moment, AIDS. Eggs has biotin and it has protein and it is the superfood. It's the number one superfood you can eat. 3 months later, eggs, bad. Wine, bad. Wine, resveratrol, good. Right? And it will go back and forth, and it will make you nauseous. It is time to start thinking for yourself, my friends. Okay? So we today in the podcast are going to teach you how to stop struggling with food by giving you 5 steps, by giving you the psychological root of this profound advice that was given to me, that when you change your story, you don't allow your outside narrative, whether it's the magazines, the environment you grew up in, your parents, that you yourself are an individual who applies curiosity to all of the information that comes to you from the outside. You are now able to control what goes on the inside. And therefore, you'll have a different narrative. Trisha, what was your narrative when you're going and you're reading these magazines and you're a young girl and you're, reading this one thing about restricting calories and you're like, oh my goodness, there's a strategy.
Yeah, and especially when it's someone that you like idolize at the time on the cover, and you're like, well, if Britney Spears is, restricting her calories, I think she's great. I think she's cool. I'm going to restrict my calories, and maybe that'll make me happier or more confident. But no, the answer is no, it didn't. It sent me down an even worse spiral of not eating and then going into like body dysmorphia.
And if you're glorifying that imagery, or you're glorifying the modern day cover photo, which is somebody who is portraying obesity, or maybe somebody who is overweight, and then saying, hey, this is also good, I think there's a moral issue with that. I think there's a moral issue either way if you're telling somebody to undereat or overeat and these things are good. These things are not good. These things are maybe good for you, but when you have a microphone and a platform to shape the story, to shape the narrative psychology of millions of people, we've got to take more responsibility. But this can't be a conversation about the system versus you. This has to be a conversation about installing the belief systems, the strategies, the willpower, the knowing, the separation, the discernment from your environment, to have this gap of curiosity when something comes in. Hey, I've got an ability to process and then decide what this information means to me, and I no longer am going to let information come in and become a part of me without questioning it. Yeah. And that's the fundamental, that's the foundation to the advice that I've gotten. Change your story, change your state, change your strategy. So many of us start with the strategy. We look for the strategy, and the strategy doesn't work. Most often, the strategies won't work, especially the ones that are geared to make you impulsive, to click quickly, to consume fast. These things are very impulsive. Then you're going to have a story that says, hey, every time I listen to one of these things, subconsciously my life is getting worse. See, I told you nothing works. Now I've got this story that I'm telling myself, and now we're getting into narrative psychology and a real network of different parts of your brain that we call belief systems that are put together. And these belief systems are nothing more than the thoughts that you think consistently. That's all they are. Trisha.
Can I ask a question? So as I'm like thinking back in this time when I was really struggling and I was not eating food, and I was getting, I remember people saying, oh my gosh, you look so great. And then I'm like getting fed with this, like, oh shoot, I guess I need to stop eating. And at the same time, you guys might have heard my story last week, and my biological father like left my life at that time. So I'm like struggling not only with like identity, with like how I'm supposed to be consuming food, and I'm getting these weird people coming up to me that I don't even know saying I look so great, what are my tips and tricks, when really I'm not eating food at all. And then I'm also dealing with this personal story. And so now for me, it's almost a trigger, like because it was during a period of my life. And so what I'm getting at is, does that make sense where it's like food is a crutch? And in my case, it was like the lack of food made me overcompensate for how I was feeling personally because my dad had left and I was dealing with that trauma.
Well, let's get into the segment because these 5 steps, because I think it kind of lends its hand right into the first one. So I'm going to go over the 5 real quick for everybody so that you know what's coming down the line. And then we'll go back and we'll address that. Number 1 is breaking the cycle of shame. Okay. And I'm not talking about shame from others. I'm talking about personal shame. Number 2 is separate hunger from emotion. Number 3 is what we kind of started talking about, which is separate your hunger from your environment. Number 3 is separate your hunger from your environment. Number 4 is rewire your relationship with food. We've talked about this on the podcast before, this idea of neuroplasticity, this idea that different networks of your brain can wire and fire in different ways, and you can actually change that your neurons are they have this placid feature to them that allows them to be rewired. And number 5, anchor in a new identity, because at the end of the day, the most powerful force in human nature, the strongest need that we have as a human being is to be in alignment with the story that we tell ourselves. People will even defend a story that's disempowering for them just because that's where they believe they're going to be in the future. Mm-hmm. They'll defend doing the wrong things in order to be in alignment with that version of the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into number 1. Okay, if you're going to answer the question, how do I stop struggling with food? The first thing that we have to do is we have to address the inner world, not the epigenetic world, not the influence on your genetics through the environment. We've got to address the cycle of shame, this pattern that keeps happening over and over and over and over. Let's go back to Trisha's example. She said, I was not eating at all, and people were coming up to me and they're asking me, Trisha, what is your secret? How do you look so good? And in your mind, you know you're not doing something that's healthy for you. That creates shame, doesn't it? And you start to go downward in this spiral of thinking, I'm not worthy of this praise.
Yeah. Because I wasn't doing anything. I was literally taking the easy way out by not eating, and I was embarrassed that I wasn't eating. So I would make up a story of oh, I'm eating healthy. I'm just counting my calories, when literally I wasn't eating food.
It's a story you tell yourself is so important, everybody. And I want you guys to know this and know that this comes from the bottom of my big, giant, bleeding, burn boot camp blue heart. Most of you are lying to yourselves. Yeah. I've been there many times, and you have to protect against the truth for yourself first and foremost. And many of you right now, many times in my life, you're full of it. You're giving yourself this story, the reason why you can't. Here's an example. This is an example of maybe a thread of humanity that might believe this. Okay. Well, I'm just an overeater. I don't know. I've always been overweight. My family's always been overweight. I want to change, but I can't because I'm addicted to food. I want to change this more than anything, but I'm just an overeater. This is the story that you're telling yourself, right? You will sabotage healthy eating. You will sneak bad food on purpose, subconsciously, just to be in alignment with the definition that you give yourself, because the strongest force in human nature is to be aligned to the identity that you project forward. So if I am an overeater, on the surface, I'm trying, but at your core, the root of your identity, you have this disempowering story, and it creates this momentum in a downward cycle of shame. This is your story. This is the beliefs you have. They reoccur. You think about them over and over and over and over and over. The question is, to break the cycle of shame, how do you get out of telling yourself these disempowering stories over and over and over? Trisha, do you know how somebody, let me just gauge you on this, how somebody could be telling themselves lies after lies? It might be their personal truth. They might deeply believe it as a philosophical axiom to their life. But what we know is that in actuality, in the universe, that's not true, although it might be true in your personal truth in your universe. What do you think we do to break ourselves out of this habitual storytelling pattern that's disempowering?
Gosh, that's such a loaded question, because I think it's you have to first come to terms with like the self-awareness of it all. Like I'm thinking through my own journey and my own story, because I went from not eating and I was going through all this stuff with my dad. And then I started to like not eat, and then I would feel bad, and then I would binge eat, and then I would not eat, and then I would binge eat. So I went through this yo-yoing for like ever. And I honestly think it wasn't until I found a consistent, going back to, we were talking before the show started about like how you feel good when you work out, and you want to treat your body right. So it was for me, and I don't know if I'm answering your question. I'm speaking as it's coming into my own brain on how I have dealt with this. Is like I had an appreciation for my body and what I was doing with my body in the gym, and it kind of gave me this aha of like, I need to fuel my body better. And hey, guess what? When I fuel my body better, because I did these focus meetings, and when I did that, I actually was a happier person. And so for me, I started to connect the dots of awareness. And now I'm at this much better space in my life where I do have a better relationship with food. There are still moments though when I have those triggers and I go downward spirals of the yo-yoing. So it's still not like it's completely gone.
No, yeah, your environment's always going to be there. But what I want to pick up is something that you said. You said, I went into the gym. And what I hear is the answer to my question in that. It's not so obvious in what you said, but let me make this obvious so that that everyone listening really understands how to change a disempowering story. There's two ways to change a disempowering story. One way that we prefer. Number one, move your body. Move your body. The physiology, right? The physical body in motion. This is what's going to create emotion. Go out and you run for 20 minutes straight as hard as you can. How empowered are you after that? You do a 45-minute boot camp. How empowered are you after that? The cycle of shame has an antidote. You know what the antidote is? We say it all the time. It's confidence. The antidote to shame is confidence. So if you want to stop self-shaming, then you need to have more self-confidence. So you want to get self-confidence is not displaying this disempowering story around every corner. Get yourself a new set of stories. How do you get a new set of stories? Get yourself in a state in which you're able to receive those stories, that you're able to be empowering with yourself. If you're sitting on your couch and you're eating Cheetos and you're licking your fingers and you're watching football on Sunday, drinking a whole Yeti full of like vodka and soda or White Claw, and you're just crushing the wings and you're just sitting there in like low energy, you're going to have low energy. You're not going to wake up any more confident than when you started. But if you get up in the morning the next day, even after doing all that, and you go get after it for 45 minutes, you are going to have a level of confidence after that movement that is going to be profound for you. It can be really profound for you if you're connecting the state, the physiology change, to the actual story that you're telling yourself. And when you're in this state, boom, you can change anything you want. You can change any disempowering belief that you want into an empowering belief. I can believe that, man, I'm just such an overeater. I've always been an overeater. I'm just big bone. You know what? And then I go out and I move my body for 45 minutes. I'm like, man, for being big bone, I sure do move fast. I got out and I got 20 minutes of work in. Man, I'm proud of myself. You can start to change the story that you have. And if you don't change your state, you're going to keep playing. It's called the default mode network. We talk about it all the time. When you're just in a trance, when you're sitting there and you're just zoning out to the football game, eating Cheetos, drinking the Yeti.
Sorry, the visual that I have is you licking your fingers.
And I also have like a hairy belly with my shirt up, and it's like a beer belly or something. And you're sitting there, you're like, that visual is a disempowering state. And I want you to realize that in a moment you can start to change if you change your physiology. The other way is if you change your focus. What are you focused on? Because we all know this. Focus is nothing more than concentrating and directing your energy, not like a buckshot, but like a laser beam. Your focus is, you take all that light energy and you put it on one spot. Okay, you put it on one spot. You take all the light in this room right now and you just let it broadcast out and disperse. It's not going to be very powerful. But if you took all this light in this room and concentrated it into a single stream of photons and you drove it into this desk right here, it would burn through this desk because it's powerful to focus. So what are you focused on? Chelsea, I want you to look up the map of consciousness. It's also sometimes called the power versus force chart. Power versus choice. And I want everyone right now, as we end step 1 here, to break the cycle of shame. Trish talked about awareness. That's part of this conversation. Yep, it's that one right there. Pull that up for me. Thank you. We can go ahead and pull this up on the screen. This is power versus force. This is the emotional spectrum. All right, we have a blog post actually on burnbootcamp.com, I believe, right, Chelsea? And that's where we're at right now. And it's the map of consciousness. Okay, look at the top of this map of consciousness. This, as you move up, you have power as you move up in these emotions. You have love, joy, peace, enlightenment. Okay, there's all positive emotion. If you move down the chart, you have forceful emotions. You don't have power. You got to force anger. You got to force fear. You got to force the guilt. You got to force the lowest level, the shame. You got to force it. It's got to be reinforced. You got to force it with yourself. You actually have to ignore how powerful you really are in order to be in shame. You have to not give yourself credit intentionally for the things in your life that you're good at. You have to downplay yourself if you want to stay in negativity. So here's my question for you. When you're talking to yourself, maybe you can answer this one for me, Trish.
Okay.
When you're talking to yourself and you have a conversation and it's one-on-one, how many statements out of your mouth to yourself are positive versus negative? What's your ratio? I know we think thousands of thoughts a day. I'm not asking you to keep track of every single one here. I'm just saying, if you had to estimate, what is your ratio? Is it one positive thought for every negative? Is it 2 to 1? Is it 3 to 1? Is it inverse? Is it 1 to 4? 1 positive for every 4 negative. What is your positivity to negativity narrative?
Mm-hmm.
What's your narrative? And if you can answer the question honestly, and you can say that you're a negative person, that's the self-awareness that you need to change your life, because your words stem from where? Your thoughts. So if your thoughts are mostly negative, what's going to be mostly negative as a byproduct of that, Trisha?
Your actions.
Your words, your actions, your experiences in life, and then the reinforcement or the dwindling of those beliefs based on your experiences. This is the cycle of shame. This is how you break it. Move your body. If you're feeling bad, if you feel you're moving down, pull up the map of consciousness one more time. If you're moving down the mat, if you find yourself going from courage to pride to anger to too much desire to fear to guilt to shame, if you feel yourself going down and your ratio of positivity to negativity getting worse, move. Do something. Or change your focus. You know the best way to change your focus, and we can move on to step 2? The best way to change your focus is to focus on someone else. I got so much crap for this when I posted on my Instagram account. I don't know if we can find this. It's been a while back. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to find it if we had to dig. But I said the best way to change yourself is by helping others. It was on like Thanksgiving, and I said maybe last year, the year before, and I said, hey, listen, if you're not feeling grateful or happy or cheerful or in this positive sense of emotion this Thanksgiving, then go give your time up to somebody else who doesn't have enough. Go give your time up to somebody else. And I got pasted because people thought that what I was saying was that if you're struggling and you're depressed, that focusing on other people is how you got there in the first place and not focusing on yourself. And that is the cycle. That is the disempowering story that you're believing. You're just reinforcing your own story. If you want to be in a different state, go move your body, go help out, go feel. Don't just talk about it, be about it. Go feel what it feels like to go give, to go help, and expect nothing in return. It's the thing that will change your focus the fastest, from shame to gratitude, from shame to confidence, from guilt to confidence. That's how you break the cycle of shame.
It's so powerful because it's more than just like food. Because I think, you go through life right now, I'm kind of going through this back and forth of going down the spiral of, am I good enough? Right. And I think that there's times in your life when you do and when you don't. And I think that this is a good reminder for anyone who might be battling that because I know it's like, oh, sorry. It's hard for me right now.
What's hard?
Just you try and stay in that, the positive, and then if everything around you is just like negative, you're like, am I supposed to be negative? And then like you have this internal battle of like, I know better to not be negative, but everyone, it feels like, is against me right now. The world is against me. So I just think, and that's, thankfully I don't use like food as a crutch anymore. There was a time in my life when I did, but I can see, and I'm trying to like resonate with people when life is hard, because life can get hard, and how you could rely on things because you're telling yourself this story of, I'm not good enough. I'm just gonna, food's gonna make me feel better, or whatever. Alcohol's gonna make me feel better, whatever it is. I can see that, and I know it's hard. And I am just living the struggle right now, because some days are better than others. Today, I'm not going to lie, I'm not feeling my best. And so this episode's really kind of like hitting home.
Well, you are a high-level performer that has a lot of pressure on them, and it doesn't matter if you're a high-level performer that has pressure on them, or you are somebody maybe who doesn't have all these extrinsic responsibilities, and maybe your responsibility lives with your family. That doesn't, or just yourself, that doesn't mean the pressure is any more or any less. It still feels the same. And it's actually a great segue, Trish, into number 2. Step number 2 is separate your hunger from your emotion. Your story, people that are listening to this, that are super engaged with it, are going to start it because they are interested in answering the question, how do I stop struggling with food? But the answer really lies in, how do I stop struggling with anything that is disempowering to me? Because food, or like you said, alcohol, or disempowering beliefs about your career, or whatever it might be at home, like these are things that are real, but there's all the same 5 steps. There's all the same strategy, right? Step number 2 is separate hunger from emotion. And I want you guys to hear what Trish did right there, because I would call this out if we were sitting one-on-one, and she gives me full permission to call these types of things out when we're sitting here one-on-many with you, because I know that you're going to learn from this, and she wants you to learn from it. Do you hear what she said? She said, it feels like the world's against me. That's a heavy burden to hold. This is part of the story. It feels like the world's on my shoulders. The world's against me. And if you start translating that, what that means is that I have this impossible burden. There's literally an impossible burden of me having to hold the weight of the world up, which no one human can do. Therefore, if I have to do that, some impossible burden means inevitable failure. And now I feel shame because I feel that there's going to be inevitable failure. And there's nothing I can do about it because I have this story. I have this story that's saying I'm holding the weight of the world on my shoulders, when really, is that true, is a question that we have to ask ourselves. Am I really holding the weight of the world on my shoulders? There is a biological drive for hunger. So let's separate this, okay? And then I'll let you comment on it as you're processing this. And I hope you guys are processing this at home as well. It's learning that at this moment in time, at step 2, you can do one of 2 things. You can get to the root cause of the problem, or you can give in to the impulse to catastrophize. You can give into the natural human impulse that we all have to say, the world's on fire, how about yours? To hold the weight of the world on our shoulders. And if we can just stop ourselves right there, and we don't let that get any further, what we can now do is we can separate this notion, this human, universal, collective, this thought that says, I'm not good enough, the world's on my shoulders, I'm an overeater, I can't stop eating. I can separate this story, this emotion that's anchored in this story, from the actual hunger itself. So what is hunger? What is ambition? There's a biological drive that we all have in us. In Trisha's case, in her story today, it's about ambition, right? It's in your case today, it could be about hunger. It could be about your relationship, your spirit, your emotion, your body, your time, your work, your career. It could be about any of these major pieces of life. There's always going to be the biological drive and need to eat. There's also the emotional side, which is the psychophysiological drive. That's a big word. That means the brain and the mind body's need to integrate your emotion, your feelings, to integrate the body's response and integrate the behavior all in one. So there's an emotional side of it, and then there's this scientific, more straightforward side of it. So we're going to have the biological need to eat, obviously. Okay? But that emotional, that psychophysiological need, these are two separate things. Okay, they're two separate things. What do you hear, Trish? As I'm starting to split this apart, so that what I'm doing is I'm wanting you guys to see distinctions. I'm wanting you to make a distinction from the impulsive thought patterns that we have. Thought to action, thought to action, thought to action. Thought to thinking to action. Thought to thinking to action. What goes through your mind?
Yeah, I think as like currently dealing with obviously some emotions right now and thinking through like the way to process this is, I think it's been probably like 24 hours since I've been feeling this way, right? Like hardcore feeling this way. And I haven't done anything to besides talk to myself in my head, right? And I'm going back and forth, but I could see where I haven't gone and moved my body. Honestly, I gave myself an excuse this morning to not go to camp because I wasn't feeling great. I wasn't mentally feeling, I just wanted to sleep because I was feeling depressed. And that is what I told myself. And I believed it in that moment. And now that I'm having this conversation and I'm speaking out loud about it, I'm like, I need to go move my body. I need to go for like a run, go to camp, do something, because it's going to then stimulate my body and remind myself that I do have the confidence that I need. I don't, like I said, I don't have a dependency to like lean on anything else other than my own negative thoughts. But I can see how previously, like probably 21-year-old me would have relied on like maybe food or alcohol or something to like lift myself back up. So it's this state that's scary, because if you don't have someone that you can lean on or trust, like a friend, or you guys who are dealing with this in real time with me, you can go down this negative spiral, and it is scary. And I think it's normal for everyone to go through it. It's not like any of us are different. I'm sure, Devin, you have examples of times when you go through this as well. So it's just being able to, I guess, acknowledge when you're in that moment, and hopefully it's not too late to where you've already done some damage. You can get out of it. You can snap out of it. You can tell yourself the positive stories so you can bring that confidence back to surface.
You are so spot on, and I appreciate the vulnerability and the really availability that you have today to be able to go through this real time with people, because it's not easy to put your own insecurity or your own inflictions on display for everybody. Trish, to go, it's so helpful because people are going to be able to go right along with you, but it's also scary because of the judgment that comes from it. But this is what has empowered me to tell my story as well, because these two things are linked. The biological drive and the emotional drive are linked. What we have to realize, though, everyone, is that you're not broken if you have emotions first that are disempowering. What you are is a human being that has a neurological wiring to lock into a goal and to go get it. There's also a benefit to having some worry. The benefit to having some worry is you don't want to feel that pain, and that pain is motivating you to go out and do things. And so you're naturally always going to have this emotional state that hits you first, because literally through the anatomy, the anatomical structure, as the energy comes from our body to our brain, you're gonna go through the brainstem and the amygdala and the kind of ancient brain, the lizard brain, the monkey mind, some people call it first, and you're gonna have those emotions immediately. You're gonna have emotion first. We are emotional creatures, and then you're gonna have this prefrontal cortex, the thing that makes us a human being, the separation between chimps and humans in our species. What's made us so powerful is that we have an executive function in our prefrontal cortex that can override emotion. It overrides emotion. So appreciating that you are an emotional being, appreciating that there's always a piece of good that you're going to take with this disempowering story, and that you're going to take that piece of it, you're going to pass it up to the executive brain, and then you're going to logically say, okay, how is this a disempowering story? I know this is the way that the brain works for everybody. These are not my thoughts. I am not the only person to have these thoughts. These thoughts are shared by almost everyone at some point in time. It just happens to be me right now. I'm not alone. Let me see what other people have done. Okay, 10-4, got it. Let me sit down and think. Let me think. Let me write down what I'm thinking. Let's not go from thought to action, DK, Trisha. Let's go from thought to thinking. Is this really me? Questioning, curiosity. Curiosity will change your life. So this is how you separate hunger from emotion. It's this executive function that we use to override our emotional response to hunger, to any type of shame that stems from a disempowering story that you're telling yourself. Okay, go ahead.
I like that. So I think when you just have to, I'm just thinking there because you have to have like that level of awareness when you're going down the spiral and you're on that chart and you're like at the top and then all of a sudden you hit like the bottom real fast because that's what happened with me over the past like 24 hours. You have to have the realization that you need to write it down. So in my case, if I was feeling this way and I knew the way to make me feel better was to go get food, would that be when I would say, like, write it down? Am I really hungry or am I just replacing my emotion with food?
Yeah, what do we do? This is also a great segue into the next topic. Separate hunger from your environment.
Mm-hmm.
Separate hunger. Okay, step number 1. What do? We break the cycle of shame. How do we do that? We change our state. We change our physiology. We change our focus. We get into a more empowering state of mind where we can actually have grounds to change our story, tell ourselves a better story. Then we have to separate hunger or separate the failure, let's just say, from the emotion itself. You are not failure. You just failed at this one thing. What does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Okay. What does that actually mean? That means that I have an emotional brain that's going to try to protect me from failure at all costs. But I also have this executive function of my brain that is made literally to override that. That is in the creation. That is in God's will to give you the free will to override that executive emotion. Okay? How do we do this? We stop, we think. Am I hungry? I don't know. Am I really hungry? Am I biologically hungry? Or am I psychophysiologically hungry? Mm-hmm. Do I have these triggers in my environment, mostly when we're talking about food, that are triggering me? Or is this a natural hunger because I want to fuel my body? Number 3, separate your hunger from your environment. So as you go down and you start to write down all the thinking that takes place between the disempowering belief or thought that you have before you take action, all the thinking that goes in that gap, the yogis call it, the great gap. Put it down on paper. Am I hungry? No. Why do I tend to eat when I'm feeling disempowered or I feel shame or I have guilt? That's because that's what I've always done. Well, why have I always done that? Oh, wow. That's a good question. Oh, because I've never actually stopped to let my emotion process and separated my emotion from the biological need that I have. I've never done that. Okay, so then I've just been mindlessly eating, me not connecting the reason why I'm eating to a specific cause. It's mindlessly eating. People do this in front of the TV almost as a full-time job sometimes.
And say, is this also where the boredom? So my kids are like, I'm trying to break them of this habit because I swear when they're not doing a lot, like when we're in that lull between like after school to sports and they're supposed to be reading, but like they're bored. They're like, I want a snack. I want a snack. And I'm like, do you, or are you just like bored?
This is classic environmental cues.
Yeah.
Environmental triggers. How is the environment around us actually impacting our decisions that we make? So it's separating hunger from the environment. People do this with smoking. If you're a smoker, you've got 4 spots. Like if you're in these spots, dude, if I'm in the car, if I'm at work after work before I get in my car, if it's midnight and I'm on the back porch, if there's always a specific time. I used to be a dipper playing baseball from like I was 15, 16 until I was maybe like 27 or something like that. I quit cold turkey. It was not empowering my life. I quit. I was fully addicted to it, and I had to stop dipping. I had to stop chewing tobacco. It was making my life worse. There was no association that I could honestly say that it made my life better. It was making my teeth yellow, right? It was eating away at my gum line. It was making me feel disempowered, breaking promises to myself because I knew I needed to stop, but I wouldn't stop over and over and over and over. The one way that I stopped is by identifying exactly where I was when I did it the most, which was driving. And then I said, if I'm not going to stop anywhere, I'm just going to stop when I'm driving. And that's how it started. And I literally went right to the center of the environmental cues, and I stopped it in that one moment. So let's translate this to hunger in your kids. Okay, let's just say you're in an environment where you take your kids grocery shopping every Sunday. And then you're also in an environment at your home where, if you're anything like my house, snack wrappers are literally all over your house, people. Who's with me? Raise your hand,
Yes.
say aye if you're with me. Your kids are like a hurricane of snack wrappers and banana peels and apple cores. They're left everywhere, all right? Now, if I'm in the store and I'm in the environment and I'm getting annoyed by my children and they're saying, this isn't your story, this is a story.
Yeah.
I'm getting annoyed by my children. I want. Your children are being conditioned that when they're in the store, they get to say, I want, and you're going to get it for them. You're setting yourself up in a position now later in an environment where your pantry is a revolving door because I want at the store is now carrying over into your home. And now you're allowing these same snacks that were associated with this store and this I can have environment now becomes your home. And then what do, parents? We take our little plastic baggies or our little Amazon, deals that we get that our, friend sent us. It's the new Amazon bag that's like cheap or whatever. And, it's got this special little Ziploc thing. Look how cute it is so that I can take it to baseball games and stuff. And then you share that with all your mom friends. Now all your mom friends, dad friends, they have the same snack bag. You're taking the snack bag, taking that environment into the car, into baseball. Now you're allowing this I can have mentality for your children become in all of their environment, not this one place. So you've got to think about these things. This is why life is hard. This is not easy, everyone. If you thought you're going to come here today and just get 5 simple steps, DK said 5 steps. Break the cycle of shame. Separate hunger from emotion. Separate hunger from your environment. Rewire the relationship with your food and anchor in a new identity. I'm good to go. Then you're going to get the message wrong. The message is that you must constantly wake up every single day and you must say, how can I seek health today? Where am I seeking health today? You must also wake up every day and say, where am I not seeking health today? Where are the disempowering environments that I'm going to be placed in? And what decisions am I going to make? This is you are conforming to the environments that you're empowering. Hear that? You are conforming to the environments that you are empowering. This is behavioral psychology. In other words, here's my one word for this section. You want to hear my one word?
I do.
Boundaries. You're not setting boundaries.
Big word.
I'm not set boundaries if I go to the grocery store and I say yes, yes, yes. Look at where that travels to. It travels all the way back around. And now I'm going to be in my house cleaning up wrappers and I'm angry about it. And now I got this story that my kids are ungrateful kids that just don't ever thank mom and dad. They just leave wrappers all over the place. You were the one that started it in the first place. You allowed the environment.
Yeah.
You create the culture as the leader of the family. I struggled with this very story, if you can't tell. This very story is very near and dear to my heart. I got so sick of cleaning up wrappers in my house, I said no more. And I realized that I have to start saying no when we're at the grocery store. You guys are going to go into this store. You're going to get one thing that you get to have, and it's going to be chosen from this set of 5 things. Boundaries. And now I don't have banana peels in the back of my car anymore. Voila. Because I set a new environment. I separated the biological need for hunger for my kids to the story that they get to tell themselves is I want, I get. Does that make sense? Boundaries. Reduce the distractions constantly from hunger by increasing the boundaries. Planning ahead. Waking up. Fighting this daily. You've got to fight with it. It's not going to be easy. and you're going to fail many times. How are you going to respond when you fail? And I feel like that's kind of a place that you're at today is I feel I'm not a failure, but I feel like in this last day, I'm failing. So then I have the tendency to take it and make it everything. And now my world's failing when maybe it's just really just this one little thing. I mean, you had this as a trainer before too, haven't you? When people sit down with you and they say, Trisha, I've tried everything. I've done everything. Nothing works. It's all bad. Catastrophizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is hard. And I'm thankful that I have the tools now, but I'm also relating back to when I was younger and didn't have the tools. I hope that people know that it's okay and it's normal and that there's a way out of it.
This is what the podcast is for.
Yeah.
You wake up and you're feeling this way, and all of a sudden, the title of this podcast speaks to you, this central question of how do I stop struggling with food, this central question that we're asking. You also have this as a central question to your life right now. You roll the podcast, and all of a sudden, you start getting information that allows you to think differently. It's all about thinking. Life is all about the way you think.
Yeah.
It's all about the belief systems that you have and what you believe.
I was going to say, going back to the core values, I mean, if you truly do intentionally start your day with your core values, I did think about mine this morning because I was struggling so bad to get out of this rut. And I was like, I can do this. I have these positive thoughts. I know I can dig them up. But if I didn't even have that, and I got super emotional, I was still struggling. But if I didn't even have that, I couldn't even imagine the state that I would have been in today. I don't know if I would have gotten out of bed.
That's a boundary.
Yeah.
You are setting a routine where you're waking up every morning and you're going to say, I'm going to read my core values. Yeah. Because your boundary is that I do not go a day without reminding myself who the hell I really am.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have things that come at me, and I'm going to have family members die. And what you're dealing with in business is not even close to some of the tragic things that are going to happen in your life. So how you deal with this is how you're going to deal with everything. Yeah. If you can go back to your core values and remind yourself of how strong you are, you have now found the power of words. Mm-hmm. Nothing can transform your life faster than not impulsively going from thought to action, stopping, thinking, which is why, nice tie into last episode, Chelsea, which is why, Jordan, I want you guys, audience, to write down your core values and revisit them daily, because the power of your words is transformational. It's your language patterns that shape your life. There are two categories in the world, and they're marked by words of winners or the language of losers, and that is it. That is absolutely it. Your thoughts go to words, go to actions, go to experiences, go to meaning. And the thoughts that you think have a direct correlation to the meaning that you have in your life, to the experiences that you have in your life, and how well you're going to spend your time while you have it in this finite world. It's power of words. You're waking up and reminding yourself, using those words, drilling them into your head that, hey, when I have these disempowering universal beliefs, they're not mine. These are Trisha's core beliefs. This is who I am. Not some silly thought that I give too much power to, that I allow to consume me for the next day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Transformative language patterns. I write about this in Stop Starting Over, by the way, in depth. You know what is, before we move on to number 4, I don't know, fine, sure, okay, maybe, sort of, if I feel like it. All this in-between language, all this in-between, indifferent, I'm not decisive language, all this language is negative language.
Yeah.
It's all negative. If there's words of winners and there's the language of losers, you take all those things that you see, I'm doing fine, I'm okay, I'm making it by, hanging in there. You're telling me how you feel. You're just softening it because you don't want to project that onto me. You're not feeling good. Let's talk about it. I'm feeling great. Oh, I got boundaries in my life. How you feeling? How you feeling? Answer that question.
Yeah. You're the one that actually has made me rethink using the word sure. And it's so true though. If you just get out of your, I think, I try so hard, I still hear myself say it. But I think you're also onto something. I'm laughing at myself now because if I had better boundaries, if I could be more consistent with my boundaries, you can still have days where you're not feeling great, but you can feel great because you have the boundaries. So the world's still gonna pour crap on you, right? Because that's just life. But if you can create boundaries, then you can still be feeling good because that's just over there. I'm not letting that into my head. I'm literally telling myself that right now. And I'm smiling now. I was crying 5 minutes ago. Now I'm smiling. Welcome to the head of Trisha. But it's true.
It's true. Boundaries are so important. Let me tell you a story about boundaries real quick and then we'll move on to step number 4. Here's my story about boundaries. When Morgan and I were first getting started with Burn Boot Camp, and we knew that it was the moment in time in which we knew this thing was going to go. At first, it was like, a handful of locations. We didn't really know what it was going to be. There's a certain point in time where we open, 50, 60, 70 locations. We knew that we were going to take this thing to the next level. We had a sit down. I'll never forget this. It was at the very first house that we rented together here in Charlotte, in Huntersville. We're sitting on the island at the house, and we're having a conversation. And we have a notebook in between us. And we have this circle. And I have an arrow drawn to the circle, and it says force field. And Morgan and I, in that moment, we created our life boundaries. And we've been growing those life boundaries ever since. There are certain things that get to make it into the Klein family force field. A force field is like the strongest, by the way, by definition, it's the strongest force of nature. There's no outside force that's penetrable, and only the keeper of the force field can let in or let out. What stays inside the bubble? What stays inside the bubble is Morgan Klein, Devin Klein, God, our core values, and our children. That's it. There's nothing else that's inside of our boundaries. That is it. And the one rule of the force field, and I have it tattooed on my arm, all love. All love. Because hate is the common demon. Hate is the thing that tries to get you to question yourself. Shame is a reincarnation of self-hatred. Guilt is a reincarnation of not enjoying the person that you've become to be. Inside of your force field, it's all love. Outside of the force field, do whatever you want. Go ahead. Make my day. I actually even applaud you. You want to hate on me? Fine. You want to cheer? Woo, Devin, you're amazing. Fine. Good is even a better word. Good and good. You want to cheer? You want to boo? Good. Because what happens outside of the force field doesn't matter. The only true thing that matters is what happens inside the force field. Keeping God at the center of my marriage and keeping my kids at the center of my world. Not even the business, not even the Burn Boot Camp business gets brought into that. Everything else is outside of the force field. What is your fundamental boundary? In order to set a fundamental boundary, you need to have your core values written down on paper. So what's your boundary with food? There's a time where, I lost track of my own diet. I gained 40 pounds. I was supposed to be the fitness guy. Over 5 years, I gained 40 pounds. People are like, where'd you put 40 pounds on? Under my XL shirt? You couldn't tell? Because I should be this guy who's, fit and in shape and inspiring, and at any, drop of a dime could take his shirt off and, oh, wow, he's in shape. He's the fitness guy. He's the owner of Burn Boot Camp. You want to know where the shame came for me in the last 3-4 years? The broken promise of overeating. Eating so good up until about 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Ooh, I would have my macros dialed in, bison teed up, meal planning done. I would have my sweet potato proportioned out, my ratios there, my bag of egg whites, my Bird Nutrition Afterburn. I have all my protein. I'd be hunting protein on a daily basis, getting my water in, doing my thing, except when 9 o'clock hour hit and I let go of all the responsibilities that I had, and I let go of thinking. You hear me? I let go of thinking. I let my thoughts go to action. I didn't think about them. I let my, that would be good, go to, there's 5 of those bars just gone. 2,000 calories. Now you're in a surplus. And that happens enough. Every day, it's death by 1,000 cuts for most of us when we gain weight. It doesn't happen overnight. little by little by little by little, broken promise by broken promise by broken promise. I wake up, I take my shirt off, and I'm embarrassed. And the amount of shame is at like a 9 out of 10. How dare you let yourself get to this point? Not me. Never again. No more. Enough is enough. We said it last podcast. Enough is enough. I'm done. This is not who I want to be. Stop telling yourself stories. Stop telling yourself stories. So what did I do? I started changing my focus. Instead of 9 o'clock at night going to eat, 9 o'clock at night, it's now podcast hour. Change my focus. Change my focus from 9 to 10. I listen to how to control my psychology rather than just eating and watching like a Netflix series or something. So separating your hunger from your environment. Okay? You're only an emotional eater. You only eat everything. You only always break promises if you continuously tell yourself that. Let's go to number 4. We're talking about rewire the relationship. Trisha, you're going through a rewiring. It takes some time. But stemming from the hunger, the food beliefs as a little girl, this is now projected and has become associated to all the hard stuff in life. It's kind of the same pattern, isn't it? Regardless of what you're struggling with, it's the same pattern. Now you've gotten much, much better, but even a high performer like yourself, and listen, I just told you I gained 40 pounds. Like I was definitely there. Like I feel like anybody that is in that place right now, that's feeling like I'm just breaking promises to myself over and over and over. I'm not there right in this moment. I've been there many times over and will be there again. And you're somebody who is now struggling with taking this idea of projecting or associating this thing you had as a child onto other things as an adult. And all of us do this. It's been part of our identity, right? To a certain extent. So let me ask you this question. As you've gone through your rewiring process, as you've gotten better and better and better and better and better and better at this, what has happened? Have your emotions not lasted as long? You still have them? Are they less intense, more intense? How have you practically thought about the relationship that you have with your own thoughts and how to really, fall in love with these boundaries that I'm talking about?
That's a great question. I definitely am not great now, but I know I've gotten rid of my fallback. So I don't have like a crutch. I would say my only crutch right now, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, is social media, is scrolling, because I just want to distract myself. But I can see how that could also be replaced with food, insert whatever it is with the trigger of whatever emotion you're feeling, because you just want to maybe think about something, whatever story you're telling yourself, you think that this is going to solve it. Or when I get sad, food makes me feel better. Or when I get sad, social media makes me feel better. That's literally what I told myself last night. I was like, I'm going to just scroll TikTok because it makes me feel better. Actually, it doesn't. I actually ended up crying because I was getting emotional over TikTok. So really, your emotions are going to come out either way. And so you need to do something that's productive. You need to take action to what Devin said. I'm telling myself this out loud as a reminder to myself, because this isn't going to be the last time that I hit this moment. I'm going to do it. So it's going to happen again. And I can get better at not using something else to kind of distract myself from the feelings, because guess what? I'm going to wake up the next day. I'm going to feel like crap because I didn't do anything about it. And I continue to tell myself the same story. And whatever that is for you and whatever your fallback is, you're going to continue to do it until you change it.
We have to start simple and small. When Burn Boot Camp, when we talk about rewiring your relationship with food, it's going to start with 5 small wins, right? It's going to first start with a caloric deficit, a slight caloric deficit. Quality calories in, quality calories out, with enough energy that you need, just enough energy that you need to perform on a daily basis, but not too much to where you're in a surplus, okay? 200 calorie deficit. If we can just rewire first ourselves to not overeat, if we can rewire ourselves to not overeat, this is going to be like 90% of the entire game is not overeating. We'll worry about quality calories afterward, meaning our protein, our fat, our macronutrient ratios. But so many of you are starting with that. So many of you are starting with the strategy. like the how. I can tell you all day long. I love strategy. I could tell you 1,000 different ways for you to eat healthy, for you to track yourself, for you to make it easy, for you to know what's going into your body. There's so many strategies. And here's the reality. The strategy doesn't matter unless the story and the state that you're in are empowering to you. Mm-hmm. A rewiring is a strategy. By telling yourself a better story, you're going to naturally rewire. By getting yourself intentionally into that physiological state where your entire physiology is just lit up because you moved your body, or you changed your focus radically, or you changed your breathing in a really distinct way, you're going to start shaping yourself. You're going to get to the point with food where I want you to fall in love with food because you've set boundaries. We're going to set boundaries on ourselves. What times can you eat versus when can't you eat? Mm-hmm. That's the best boundary. This is why I like intermittent fasting for you. This is how you're going to start to rewire your relationship with food. Food can't control you. The number one way to let food control you is to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, with no boundary. We've got to set a time boundary. What is your time boundary? I'm only going to eat between this hour and this hour. I had a conversation with Hanada, who is an employee at HQ. We had a conversation about 2 months ago inside of our HQ in our kitchen as we're making smoothies. And I looked at her and I said, "Hey, Hanada, how's it going? How are you really doing? I really want to know how you're doing." She's like, really trying to get this health thing right. Like I love being here. She's a newer employee, so I'm really loving the culture of Burn and I'm trying to get my health thing right. I said, "Hey, what's your boundary?" She said, "I don't really know what you mean." I said, "Try this. Don't eat at 6 a.m. and then eat at 2 p.m. That's your window. And then don't eat anything after 2 p.m., but get all of your calories. Here's your total daily energy expenditure." This is kind of maybe off a little bit, but it was roughly it's like 2,000. Eat like 1,700 or 1,800 calories, right in that small 200 or 300 deficit, and do so between 6 and 2 p.m. That is your boundary. Just do that first. That's your only goal. How simple is that, Trisha?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's pretty simple to do that.
Yeah.
You can wake up and eat, and you can eat your calories all the way through 2 p.m. You can't eat after that. That's your boundary. We have to have some type of discipline. We can't walk around blaming it on not having discipline. Part of being a human being is controlling how dangerous that you are. You could easily overeat and just be sloppy with your nutrition choices and get to 400 pounds overweight. That's dangerous. Okay, you have to control how dangerous you are. That means you have to set boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, no, like that strategy isn't also taking anything away. It's just given you're getting yourself a playground, just like kids. You can stay in this playground. You can stay here. And then from there, you just keep kind of working at it. Like Devin said, the 5 small wins. Once you accomplish one, okay, great, on to the next.
Falling in love with food is what's going to happen. If you start setting your boundaries and you start eating the calories that are required for you, take your total daily energy expenditure, take 200 or 300 calories off that, live there in terms of your calorie allotment. We'll talk about quality calories in, calories out, and the hormonal effects of food on a different nutritional podcast. But the foundation, 90% of the ballgame, is just making sure that you're getting the energy requirements in for the body to be in a slight deficit. Once you're going to do this, now watch how much better these workouts start to take place. Watch how much better you feel. Watch how much better you feel about yourself from a psychological perspective when somebody does comment, and then you know that it's not the strategy of you not eating that you have to feel shameful about that's gotten you to where you are. What's gotten you to where you are is the boundaries that you set, that you had discipline. You use your human willpower to say, I've only got so much currency with my willpower. I'm going to apply it on this boundary idea, and I'm going to nail it. And I'm never going to eat off that. That's exactly how I got this done, and I'm proud of myself because I did it the right way.
And instead of shame, you get confidence. It's similar to the gym. You get confidence after all those small wins and people see that in you. I'm like realizing that in myself. I've gotten more confident because I'm like, I did it right. I didn't take a shortcut.
You did it right. And so in your scenario, right? So now tonight, knowing that last night you didn't do it right, you went to bed, you were scrolling TikTok, it put you deeper into shame. Tonight, now it's like, what's my boundary? Mm-hmm. Now there's a boundary. Trisha came across a new, a new interpersonal conflict. She came across something she has not come across before. It's the same pattern. It's the same psychological pattern, but it's not the same experience. So now there's an interpersonal conflict that says, how do I deal with this pattern in a new way, in a new experience that I'm having? Okay, well, she realizes this morning, because she's thinking about her actions, is that maybe TikTok isn't the most empowering way to like get myself out of shame. Actually, felt good in the moment, but it took me deeper into shame. What am I going to do tonight? That's the real question. What are you going to do tonight to make sure that that boundary, that you've kept that tiger in a cage, if you will?
I'm going for a walk.
Let's go.
I've already told myself that. I'm already committed to myself.
That's empowering.
Yeah.
Super empowering to go for a walk and just be with yourself and be with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And think.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, the game is all about the stories you're telling yourself. Okay. All right. So fall in love with food. All right. That's how we're going to rewire. That's the outcome of rewiring this relationship. Okay. Here's a couple tips. Let me give a couple strategies, because I know my strategy people out there, most of you are just like, tell me how. I'll do whatever you say. Give me the strategy. I ain't telling you strategies, because you need to know that your story is disempowering, and you need to know to change the story. You got to change the state, the physiology, the focus, and then your strategies, and any amount of strategies will work when you're in the right mindset to actually implement them and follow through with the strategies. Then what happens, this cycle that Trisha's talking about, you do the right things, you keep the promises to yourself, you're starting to feel good, you actually don't have shame about feeling good and getting complimented, you have joy, the joy turns into confidence. Now I'm starting to anchor myself not only in a new personal identity, but a new environmental identity, or how I interact with the environment around me. And I start to shape epigenetically the environment that I'm around. I shape my environment. I don't let the environment shape me. This is called empowerment. When letting the environment shape you is disempowerment. This is anchoring a new identity. Okay, so an identity, it says the opposite of what you used to believe. If you had the new identity, I'm not an overeater. I am not just big boned and destined to overeat my whole life. I was an overeater, but I'm making the decision to change because I can. And I have proof of seeing it out there. I'm somebody who is going to set boundaries around my food and not let the narrative psychology of my past generation be handed down to me without curiosity. What are your new beliefs? Audit yourself. Take an inventory. What do you believe? What did your family believe? What did your universities believe? What did they teach you? And is that right or is that wrong? Anchor yourself in a new identity. That's where we have to start. That's the outcome of this whole process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I know I'm my go-dos, and I feel like I'm always, the great thing about personal development, which I've learned to love, is it never ends. There's always something you can work on. There's always a new something in your life, because life is hard with kids too, that you can always be. And then also sharing with your friends and family. So like, how can I help my friends and family get better? I'm thinking about how can I work with my husband more, because I know sometimes he has his own struggles, right? And we work together. He knows all my struggles as well. So
here's a set of strategies, and then we're going to go ahead and get you guys out of here, okay? We appreciate you hanging in here. I'm going to give you some homework too, okay? Like always. But this is for all my strategy people. Get your story right first, and then here's some strategies. One of my favorite ways to take control nutritionally is to do a 24-hour fast. Why? Because you get this instant sense of I'm in control. I'm in command. There's nothing dangerous about not eating food for 24 hours. In fact, most of us will feel 100% better after we go fasting for 24 hours. You want to kickstart your ability to fall in love with food? Reset. Okay, reset mentally. Reset physiologically by a 24-hour fast. Allow your body to experience what we call autophagy, or breaking down malignant cells. Get an instant sense of control. All right? Another thing you can do, sit down and eat without distractions. Sit down with your food, and I want you to respect your food. Have a conversation with it. Where did it come from? Do you know how incredible it is to get a sweet potato on your plate? Do you know how incredible it is to have, a nice, delicious, 6-ounce steak, or a cup of broccoli? Do you know what it takes? Do you know how many people go through hardships? Do you know how many human beings that are involved that have stories that rely on you eating this and buying this broccoli to thrive? Do you know how much goes into your food? Do you respect food? Do you respect your food? I guarantee you start respecting food more when you deprive yourself for 24 hours of your needs. I guarantee you start respecting food more. So that's why my recommendation, kickstart it with a 24-hour fast if you want to fall in love with food. Then after that, sit down without distraction, without a phone, without a computer, without technology, and give your food gratitude and respect. Cook it. Cook it twice a week at minimum. I know if I can cook it twice a week, you can cook it twice a week. I got a lot going on. I know you got a lot going on too. But I'll go task for task with you if you want, and I'll show you how busy I am. And I can still cook twice a week because it's important to me. Okay, because it's important, and it's the energy that fuels the rest of my body. Stay 100% hydrated. That's another strategy. 95% of the time you are mistaking hunger for thirst. Eat that 100 grams of protein. That's going to keep you satiated. Slight deficit off your TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. 12 to 16 sets of volume in each exercise, each muscle group for hypertrophy. You know what I mean? I could keep going all day long. Ideal body weight in grams of protein. 168 ounces of water. You name it. None of this stuff matters without the story. We can do strategies for days. The reality is it's never the strategy. The strategy is so easy. All of you know the strategy. You know that a cupcake is better or is worse than broccoli. You know that eating steak is better than eating a Chick-fil-A sandwich. You guys are very intelligent. Stop playing me. Stop playing me acting like you don't know how to eat. You know the strategies. It's the story you're telling yourself of why you can't execute the strategy. That's where we need to get to. That's the psychology. That's the root of everything. And we have this identity that has a disempowering relationship with food, and we need to get to the place where we anchor ourselves in a new identity that has a new empowering relationship with food. And the way you do that is with some of these strategies that I'm talking about. But first and foremost, above all, break the cycle of shame, get yourself out of negative emotion, and then start to separate this idea of hunger from your emotion. Separate this idea of hunger from your environment. The two things are not the same. Rewire your relationship with food by slowing down, talking to your food, kickstarting this relationship with a 24-hour fast if you need it to just kind of get that sense of control back. And once you do it and you start making promises to yourself, you're going to have a new identity. People are going to start noticing that. And now you're going to be proud. You're going to have more confidence. You're going to have a new identity because of the stories that people are telling you, that you're telling yourself about you. In the new version. There's levels to the game. This is the 5 steps. I appreciate you guys being here, taking some time to listen. And Trish, thank you for being vulnerable today. Any last words?
I would say, if you're like me and you're listening to this podcast, and as I was listening to Devin speak, and I'm just like sitting here nodding my head, if that was you, share this with somebody, because I think that there's something more, and that you saw me get emotional, had really nothing to do with the fact that it was about hunger. It's about this idea of shame. That's something that we all deal with on a daily basis. So you never know. You could be sharing this with someone who it's going to hit them at the right time. It's what they needed to get out of their funk. So please share, go like us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram, YouTube, all the outlets that we're on. We want to blow this thing up. We need your help.
We need your help, everybody. It's a movement around here, okay? And I'm proud to sit here behind the mic with Trisha and to inspire and empower you and motivate you to get to the next level in your life, all right? And when you get to the next level in your life, I want you to motivate and inspire and empower someone in your inner circle to get to the next level. This is not just me sitting here with a mic. This is me speaking to you so that you can take these words, speak them on to other people. This is how Burn Nation has grown. This is how the power of Burn Nation has really manifested. It's words, it's messaging, it's believing in ourselves first so that we can then go believe in others. So if you do nothing else today, I want you to call somebody else and I want you to tell them just how much you believe in them. I want you to just tell them what you do recognize in them that they should be proud of. And I want you to get them away from shame and get them away from this guilt and get them moving more toward power, more toward love, more toward joy. And the way you do that is through sharing these words. It's a phone call, a text message. Hey, I wanted to really share this podcast with you because it really spoke to me. And I want to make sure that you have this tool, that you have this resource, because I love you too much not to have it. That's our call to action for today. Thank you guys for being here. Trisha, you want to take us out like we always do?
You want me to clap?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to give you the honors of taking us out like we always do today.
Oh my
All
goodness.
right? Are you ready?
I'm ready. All right, guys. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.